So I wanted to share the opening of this Seeburg 1000 BMS system. This is actually just the internal mechanism. I just bought this a couple of weeks ago on eBay, and it's just the internals again. We don't have the enclosure or anything like that. So without further ado, let's take a look. I'm sure there's loads of packing material in here. Whoa! This end up. The person who sold it to me didn't seem to really know that much about these devices, and so in my back and forth correspondence, I couldn't tell if it was in, what kind of condition it was in. So I'll point out a few things as we go through this. First thing is, this is really neat. I asked the person to take the needles out and put those inside some kind of a protective thing, and they did just that. Well, there's one of them. I assume the other's buried in here. These are scarcer than hen's teeth. These are super rare. Now, let's get the rest of this stuff out of here. This is awesome. You really did a good job of packing this one up. This is interesting. This is looks like an older one. And I'll tell you why in a minute. The upper platter's missing. That's fine. I just did a video on how to make one, so I'm going to make an upper platter, replace it. These little doohickeys that catch the record and hold them, they're not coming out quite. They're not popping out as easily as they should. So I can assure you that there's something inside that's seized up a little bit that I'll be able to spray in some penetrating oil and work the mechanism a little bit. I'm going to point out something else that's really awesome. This rubber linkage between the motor and the capstan appears intact. That is superb. This thing breaks on all of these machines as they get older. So the fact that that rubber linkage between the capstan up top and the motor is intact is really nice. Super duper clean. Everything about this looks like it has not seen heavy usage. So I'm really happy. This device does not fit or does not work in a Seeburg 1000 BMC, which is the compact, the one that's the ugly one that you're supposed to hide inside a cabinet or something. This one will only work inside the BMS. The differences are the wiring in this plug, because the BMS has some of its controls that it does inside its mechanism. Also, there is down here in the back, and I'll show you all this on the workbench later, there is a coil, and that coil is used for rejecting a record. And on this one, it is a low voltage coil, whereas on the background music compact BMC, everything is done at line voltage. On the right, we have a BMM2, this one. This is from a background music system compact. This one on the left is from the BMS. That is a BMM1. Major differences are in the wiring and in that one coil that I'll point out. But there's an obvious difference between these two. Well, the bottom platter's not on this one here. It's kicking around here somewhere. But I'll point out something else. See right up here, there's a button. That's the quick change button. So you can press that button, it will flip through the records. This one doesn't have one. I've never seen one of these before. So it's probably an older variant. And another thing you'll notice is that this one has a chromed spindle, and this one is sort of a bead blasted, kind of a satin finish on the spindle. And overall, the new one is in really nice condition. There's a little sticker down here. It was cleaned, oiled, and adjusted on 9/13/73 by GJB or something or other. And this is number 218. Pretty interesting stuff. I haven't taken the bottom platter off because it's still taped down. But let me show you some of the other things here. I did mention how the needles the rarity of these needles. This is the set, well, in this cotton. That's the set that used to be on this machine that the seller put in the cotton before he shipped it to me. And this is a brand new set. These things are the rarest part of this machine. This is a capstan from this machine. Notice the rubber is broken. There is no motor on the end of it. That's what happens with most of these. I actually made one in my machine shop, and I'm doing a video on that, but shouldn't have to. If you can get one that's still working, that's awesome. Let me flip this on its back and point out some of its some of the things that we can see here. So first things first, you can see right in there, there's the linkage I was talking about. Notice it is fully intact. Notice also everything is clean and dry. Nobody put oil all over this or anything like that. This is the way a Seeburg machine's supposed to look. Everything's nice and dry. Notice the label. This is where you can tell BMM1 right there. This one's going to say BMM2. This right here is the plug that you connect to the side of the amplifier mechanism of the background music system. It looks like a Molex connector, but it is not. It is a competitor Molex or an early brand variant, something like Molex. This particular connector carries the signal for the pickups. And the one other thing I'm going to point out is I had mentioned that really the key difference between the BMM1, this one, and the BMM2 over here is this coil right here. This is the reject coil, and it pulls this little gadget over, and that flips a little thing here that's going to put this into the reject cycle. The original background music system had a transformer that had all kinds of extra voltages on it because they have an amplifier, they have other kinds of things going on. So they took a feed, I don't know if it was 20 volts or something like that, let's just say a 20 volt feed off of the amplifier, and they use that to trigger the solenoid down here. On the BMC, when they changed to the background music compact design, they didn't put any electronics in the machines. These have no electronics. It's all electromechanical. And so everything runs at line voltage. And they ended up replacing that little solenoid with one that works at line voltage. So those are the key differences. You could probably swap that solenoid and change the wiring on this thing, these connectors, change them around a little bit, and then plug this right into a background music compact. In fact, I found one of mine that had a label for BMM2 that was underneath a label for BMM1. Seeburg had converted the mechanism from the BMM2 to the BMM1, and they simply stuck a new label on it to indicate that difference. Here's one of the rubber wheels that's going to need to be this one here. That actually drives the top spindle. This one's going to need to be worked on, probably sanded a little bit and put some stuff on there to give it some stickiness. And I'll show you on the wheel mechanism for this machine. These are the internal wheels for the motor. These are the drive wheels, and all of them have to be taken out and smoothed, and the glaze taken off of them, and all those little springs in there have to be checked to see if they have enough tension. If they don't have enough tension, we'll have to replace them with new springs, which I make right here. Make them out of music wire. I'm going to do a video on that. So this is all I have. This is a beautiful machine. I'm really happy. To the seller, thank you very much. And I'm glad that you had this one around, and I'm glad you're able to get it to me in good shape. Well, that's all I have. It looks to be a healthy unit, and I hope to be able to get it working soon. Thanks for watching.